You're watching Let the Quran Speak. The pleasures of learning. The religious tradition is filled with reference to learning, to education, to observation, and to the use of reason. Muslims made marvelous contributions to the sciences and arts. So what was the secret of their success, and why can't we seem to replicate their discoveries and successes now? How do we instill in ourselves a love of learning and a desire to continually advance our intellectual abilities? With me is Brother Shabir to answer that. So, Brother Shabir, it seems like the Quran places a lot of emphasis on knowledge and scholars and pursuing education. Can you give us some examples of that?
Yes, the first passage said to be revealed to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, of the Quran is the beginning verses of the 96th chapter of the Quran, where it says Iqra, which is a command, an imperative, meaning read. This to many Muslims means that reading is very important. Another very early chapter revealed to the Prophet, peace be upon him, praises the pen. It says Nun wal qalami wa ma yasturun. That's the 68th chapter of the Quran, by the pen and what it inscribes. So there is a mention of reading, there is a mention of writing. There is the mention of the use of reason. It is said that when people enter hell, they will be asked, what's happened? Didn't any prophets come to you? And then they will say, well, yes, prophets did come to us. وَلَوْ كُنَّا نَسْمَعُ أَوْ نَعْقِلُ مَا كُنَّا فِي أَصْحَابِ السَّعِيرِ. If we had only listened or used our intellect, we would not be the companions of the blaze today. That's in the 79th chapter of the Quran. So they're acknowledging that they could have saved themselves from entering hell by two means, either by listening to the prophets or by using their intellect, but they did neither.
There's also a verse which is, I guess, a kind of rhetorical question, which says, are those with knowledge equal to those without? So maybe you can describe what
Yes, it just simply says, هَلْ يَسْتَوِي الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Are the two equal, those who know and those who do not know? And obviously the Quran is inviting the response, no, the two are not equal. Those obviously with knowledge are better off. And elsewhere the Quran states this explicitly, يَرْفَعُ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ دَرَجَاتٍ. God will raise in degrees those who have believed and those who have been given knowledge from among you. Those among you who have believed and have been given knowledge. So they'll be raised in degrees.
I believe there's also a prayer or a supplication that one makes, a common one, Lord, increase me in knowledge or something like this.
Yes, Rabbi zidni ilma, my
it's
Lord.
A verse from the Quran, right?
Yes, and it is a common prayer that Muslims recite. So now knowledge here is very broad. It's not restricted only to religious knowledge. It could be knowledge of almost anything. The point is that with knowledge one gets a broader understanding of things, and then one gets a better understanding of ourselves and also our Creator. We appreciate His creation better by understanding what that creation is. We see the marvels.
It could be even science, I guess.
Exactly.
So did Muslims take that idea and run with it? We know that in the Prophet's time many people were illiterate and they had a tradition of memorizing. So how did Muslims advance this idea of knowledge? How did they take that and
soon enough,
apply it in their own lives?
Muslims did go forward with knowledge, because you rightly, as you rightly said, is even knowledge of sciences. The Quran says, "Siru fil ardi fanzuru kayfa bada Allahu al-khalq." Travel in the world and see how God has initiated creation. So there are things to observe, to study, to reflect upon, to think about, and Muslims did that. They soon, as the Islamic Empire was expanding and stabilizing, they got the writings of the ancient Greeks and people of other cultures. They translated those writings into Arabic. They began to study them. And there came a time when the sciences and a wide variety of subjects were being studied through the medium of the Arabic language.
So that people had to learn Arabic?
Yes, people from Europe and other places would come to Muslim lands, in Spain, for example, where Islam was the ruling power, and they would learn the Arabic language and study these sciences through the Arabic language.
So what happened to us? I mean, it seems like there were so many scientific discoveries, discoveries also in the arts as well. But something seemed to change after a while. So maybe you can tell us what that is.
Yes, the fall of Granada was a very important a moment in the history of Islam where we can see the crumbling of the Muslim empire, the scattering of the Muslim peoples, and their powers, and then that is followed by the European colonizing power coming down into Muslim territory and carving up the land. The Dutch taking some, the British taking some, the French taking some, imposing this foreign rule. But the decadence has to be blamed not on foreign powers, but on Muslims themselves, as we neglected certain aspects of our religion. We did not pursue the direction that was charted out for us in the Quran and the life example of our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
I've heard someone say, well, an anti-intellectualist strand developed within Islam. What do you think of that idea?
This is definitely a part of it. The people who pursued science and technology and medicine and so on, made all of these advances, were doing so in the pure spirit that these are worthy pursuits. But then there are others who began to spread ideas that look back at the tradition and thought that the only proper expression of a Muslim society would be that known from the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So this backward-looking sort of trend did not welcome new ideas and innovation. Some people stress the idea that every sort of innovation is a deviation, and they stress this to the extent of thinking that if you have modern technology, then this is somehow taking you away from the basic spirit of the community as was left by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Then there were Sufis who they have their good part. They remind us to remember God and to have some distance from the world so that we do not become completely immersed in material things and forget our spirituality and our Creator. But the negative side of Sufism was that it preached a sort of complete detachment from the world, such that people did not see any need for progress. It's, the world is going to be tomorrow as it was yesterday, and all we have to worry about is our spirituality. Did we increase in our faith? Did we get closer to God? And so with this one-sided sort of vision of things, naturally the Muslim community was going further and further away from the progress that was charted out by the Quran and the Prophet's life example.
So how can we reclaim that intellectual tradition, that desire for learning that it seems that we had in the past?
First of all, we need to recognize that there are traces of that learning and inspire our children to reclaim that glory. The numerals that we're using in English today is called Arabic numerals for a reason. It is because Arabic mathematicians took the numbers from India, they then popularized it, they used it in their mathematical treatises, and then the numbers have survived as Arabic numerals today. They call it Arabic because they come from that, through that means. The name algebra for a particular study of mathematics, that actually comes from Kitab al-Jabr, an Arabic textbook. Algorithm, again, a particular study of mathematics, comes from the name al-Khwarizmi, who made advances in this area. And we can go on and on, but
But how do we instill within individuals? How can we train them so that they desire to learn? They want to explore. They're intellectually curious. They're open-minded. They're not defensive about knowledge. How do we do all those things?
Well, I think we have to ask them to rewind this show to the beginning of this segment where we did talk about those verses of the Quran that praise knowledge. It is important that we recognize that the Quran is calling upon us to imbibe knowledge, to learn, to study, to think, to reflect. The philosophical tradition in Islam has actually come to a standstill. There is a wide opening here for people to reclaim the past glory of philosophers such as Al-Kindi and others after him, and to show that Islam is intellectually superior to every other competing idea that is out there.
Very quickly, should we be afraid of some kinds of knowledge? Some people think that knowledge can mislead you or misdirect you, or it could come from the wrong sources.
No, knowledge does not need to be feared. There is one area of knowledge that is generally said to be forbidden, the learning of magic. But even At-Tabari in his tafsir said it's not the learning of magic that is particularly forbidden; it's the use of magic for evil purposes.
All right, thank you for that, Brother Shabir.
You're welcome.
We'll take a break. When we return, we answer questions we've received from you, our viewers.